everyone. In today's video, we will discuss the issue of WhatsApp updating its privacy policy. We will examine this issue from the broader framework of the need for a data protection law in India, and we will also discuss the features of the Data Protection Bill of 2019. We will look at a question related to this topic and also frame a model answer. Now, understanding the context of the present issue, WhatsApp recently announced a new privacy policy that no longer allows users to opt out of sharing their data with parent company Facebook. User data like phone number, address book, pictures, and contents of some messages will now be automatically shared with Facebook. Under the updated policy, WhatsApp users have two options: to agree to share their personal information with Facebook or delete their WhatsApp account. Now, following this updated privacy policy, many users left WhatsApp. So, after that, the company has clarified that it does not collect data from messages sent between family members and friends, and data will be collected from personal information and anything that you share with a business organization. So, the present controversy has made it apparent that customers need to trust a brand and have a voice in how their information is used and collected. So, given this controversy, it is very important that we take a look at the Personal Data Protection Bill of 2019. Now, one thing that I want you to understand is that whenever you are studying any bill, it is very important for us to know the objectives of the bill. Once you know the objectives of any bill, it is easy for us to remember the features of the bill and to write a critical analysis answer. And so, if you understand the objectives, you can remember the features of the bill pretty easily, and you may not have to memorize everything. So, coming to the objectives of the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019. As you can guess from the title of the bill itself, it's saying Personal Data Protection Bill. So, the first objective is pretty obvious for us, and the first objective is going to be protection of the privacy of the individuals. Okay. Now, whenever a bill comes into the picture, the bill will provide for some kind of an organizational setup and some form of accountability mechanism. This will be common for most of the bills that you will read about. It will have one objective, some organizational framework, and an accountability mechanism. So, in this case, it is the protection of the privacy of the individuals that is the objective of the bill. And another thing that the bill aims to do is create a relationship of trust between persons and entities processing personal data. It is providing an organizational framework through the Data Protection Authority that we will read about when I discuss with you the features of the bill. It provides some norms for social media and ensuring accountability for entities that are processing your personal data, and it is also aiming to provide some remedies for unauthorized and harmful processing. Now, coming to the features of the bill. First is, the bill is going to provide us with a legal framework for collection and use of personal information. And as I told you that the bill will create an organizational setup. So what is that organizational setup? It provides for a data protection authority for making regulation and enforcing legal framework. So this is our first feature. It is providing us with a legal framework. Second is the wide applicability of the bill. It is applicable on all enterprises across India except those that are specifically exempted. Here, when we are talking about the applicability of the bill, you have to remember that it is not just e-commerce platforms, but it is going to include any enterprise that makes use of automated means to collect data. So this can even include a real estate firm that is taking information from the customer and processing their data. So do not think that this is only confined to e-commerce platforms, okay? Second is consent. This is one of the most important features of this bill, and consent is at the center of data protection framework. Personal data can be processed only on the basis of free, informed and specific consent. So the three main features that we saw here is, one, the bill is providing a legal framework for data protection. Second, in terms of applicability, it is very wide. And consent is the most important feature for this bill. Now coming to more features here, the bill provides certain exemptions, that there are going to be some situations where consent is not going to be that important, and the bill provides exemption for consent in certain situations, like for delivering medical or health services and providing services during disasters, or in case when there is a breakdown of public order. Now another important thing that this bill talks about is data fiduciary. Now what do you understand by the word fiduciary? Fiduciary is a person or an organization who is acting on behalf of another person. Now, two things to remember with respect to fiduciary is that fiduciary will have to exercise certain obligation, and there is a relationship of trust that is based on this relationship. Okay, there is an element of trust on which this relationship is based, and a fiduciary is expected to act in the best interest of the client. Okay, they are expected to act in the best interest of the client. So for example, suppose Google is a fiduciary. It is collecting your information based on whatever you are searching on Google, and then it is deciding on your behalf what it is going to do with that information. So for instance, Google decides to show you certain advertisement based on the information that you are providing. Okay, so now coming to the features of the bill, the service provider who determines the purpose and manner of data processing. The data fiduciary will be required to ensure that the data are accurate and stored only for the period that is necessary and for satisfying the purposes of data collection. A consumer can request the data fiduciary to restrict or prevent continuing disclosure of personal data. Another feature of this bill is data localization. The bill requires certain data fiduciaries to store some data in India, and it provides a framework for the storage and processing of data based on sensitivity. And it has created 3 tiers of data. First one is personal data, then sensitive personal data, and critical personal data. So in personal data, this will include your email address, your house address. Sensitive personal data is associated with our biometric data or any form of genetic information or your financial data. These are a part of sensitive personal data. And critical personal data, in the bill it is written that the government will define certain personal data as critical personal data. Now one thing that you can keep in mind is that this kind of classification varies between organizations and between countries. So for example, the European Union has a very different form of classifying. European Union classifies your financial data as personal data and not as sensitive data. Okay. And one thing that I forgot to write here is that the data protection bill also talks about the right to be forgotten. So what do you understand by the right to be forgotten? This means that the right of individuals to erase, delete, or correct the personal information on the internet. Okay, so these are some of the features of the data protection bill. You can go into more depth and learn about this bill, but for the purpose of our present discussion and for the model answer that we are going to discuss, this amount of information is going to be enough. In case you want me to do a more detailed analysis of the bill, you can leave a comment below. The question that we have here is, the absence of a data protection law in India has left the privacy of citizens vulnerable to the business practices of digital companies. Comment. Now, here the tail word that we have is comment. So, how are we going to move forward? First is, we will pick out the main points. Second, what we will do is, we will select some evidence to validate our points. And finally, we will try and show that we have a wider understanding of this topic. So, what will be our approach here? We will give some reasons as to why citizens' privacy is vulnerable to companies like WhatsApp and Facebook. And we will also explain what is the need for legal protection. Now let us discuss the structure for our answer. We are going to provide first, the introduction that we will write will be a context-based introduction. Since we know that there is a current controversy, so we are going to write a context-based introduction. This will show that we are able to link the questions to our understanding of current affairs. Second, in the body of the answer, we are going to write 3 different subheadings. First, we will write that data itself has become a valuable commodity. Second subheading that we will talk about is, we will provide some instances where personal data has been misused. Third, what we will do is, we will discuss the need for strong data protection and we will make reference to the IT Act of 2000 and the Personal Data Protection Bill. Okay. So now let us see what our model answer is going to look like. One thing that you have to avoid is that the question is not asking us to write about the provisions of the Personal Data Protection Bill and to point out what its drawbacks are. Okay. We discussed the features of the bill in the beginning of the video in order to increase our understanding of the issue at hand. Okay. So let's see what our model answer will look like. Let's read the answer. One of the most widely used messaging applications, WhatsApp, has recently updated its privacy policy, raising concerns about privacy and data sharing. Users will no longer be able to opt out of sharing data with WhatsApp's parent company, Facebook. The absence of a data protection law in India has meant that users are not in control of their personal data. In contrast to the situation in India, Europe's stringent general data protection regulation prevents such sharing between apps. So you can see in the introduction itself, we have provided a context of the present controversy. We have also touched upon the absence of data protection law in India, and we have referred to Europe's general data protection regulation. So this will give the examiner an idea that we are going to touch upon the various dimensions of the topic. Okay. Then coming to our first subheading, data is a new commodity in the global economy. Data as a valuable resource. Smartphones and the internet have made data abundant and valuable. Artificial intelligence techniques have begun to extract more value from data. Moreover, third-party companies are able to use the personal information from social media platforms. Second part, we are going to discuss some examples of misuse of personal data. First is violation of privacy. Amazon and Apple are reported to be using human annotators like Alexa and Siri to listen to personal conversations recorded via their digital assistants. Second, we have talked about targeted campaigning. Citizens' data also serves as a political tool that can be used for targeted campaigning. We'll provide example. Cambridge Analytica sought to sell the data of the American voters to political campaigns and also provided assistance to the presidential campaign of Donald Trump. Now coming to our last subheading, a strong data protection law is the need of the hour. The Information Technology Act 2000 has some serious shortcomings with respect to data privacy. The IT Act provides for data collection and usage standards but does not provide any framework for data storage techniques, users' consent, and data processing standards. The Section 5 of the draft Personal Data Protection Bill mentions that a service provider can only use the information for purposes that are reasonably linked to the purpose for which the information was given. This section would have made the WhatsApp privacy policy update illegal. The absence of a data protection law means that there is no relief that a user can get in case of a breach or misuse of data. Coming to our conclusion, safeguarding the data privacy of citizens requires a multidimensional approach in order to be effective. Ensuring data safety and security also requires investment in latest hardware and software. Measures are also required to raise awareness and increase the adoption of available safety measures and latest technologies among individuals and organizations. Respect for user privacy and ethical use of personal data must also come intrinsically from within the companies, and they must make their privacy policies more legible and understandable for common people. So you can see that in the conclusion, we have not just talked about the need for a data protection law that we have already discussed, but we have also said that a law is only one of the steps that is required. There are some other measures also that need to be taken for safeguarding the privacy of individuals. Okay? That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned how to frame an answer on the privacy and the data protection bill issue. Now, one important thing that I want to tell you about is that there are two Supreme Court judgments also related to data protection and privacy of citizens that you must be aware of. One is the K.S. Puttaswamy case. Here the Supreme Court said that the Indian Constitution includes the right to privacy. And there is another case, the Khadak Singh case, where the Supreme Court said that privacy is not a part of the Constitution. So please read about these two cases, and referring to these two Supreme Court judgments along with the Personal Data Protection Bill is going to make your answer really holistic if you are asked any question on the privacy issue.